For this upcoming Thanksgiving, the spotlight falls squarely on Disney's Wish and the historical epic Napoleon, largely because the performance of the two previous week's films was certainly nothing to write home about. Well, let's have at it. Here we go. First, Disney's new original animation, which by all measures looks a bit odd, is this new film Wish. And this marks a pivotal return for the animation studio on the Thanksgiving season, aiming for a robust $45 to $50 million across 5 days. Let me say that again. Across 5 days, when really even that's a lie, because it's really over 6 days because previews start today, Tuesday. Even for Hollywood, this is playing a little fast and loose with the name Weekend. And while we do normally have about 4 days for the Thanksgiving holiday, 6? That seems excessive. Now, this pending disaster comes after a setback last year with Strange World. Remember that one? Industry expectations were high for that, banking on the momentum of Thanksgiving weekend where school holidays existed and there were breaks in position to moviegoing. And instead, the film netted a substantial loss and an entire global run of about $80 million. In fact, its opening weekend was only $12 million. That's not doing very well domestically. Now, internationally, the film Wish is taking a staggered release approach, targeting around 43% of the foreign market, including the key regions of the UK, Spain, Mexico, China, and India, which largely are the major contributors to what will be an estimated global opening of about $75 million by the weekend's close. This is also incredibly optimistic on the face of it, as it's likely to fall well below $70 million in its international premiere. The film itself actually follows the tale of a young girl's wish on a star, and it's been interpreted by many who've seen the film that she's actually the bad guy here, which really, based on what Disney makes now, isn't surprising. It's also vital to note that the film reviews currently stand at 52% by all critics and 32% by top critics over on Rotten Tomatoes, if you think that's worth knowing. Now, of course, with ratings like that introduces an element of uncertainty despite the overly optimistic pie-in-the-sky forecast that we've been hearing. Most of those rely heavily on the idea that families will need something to do over this holiday weekend, and while that is true, Disney's no longer considered a family company by, well, a growing majority of people here in this country and abroad. So I'm not certain how one would think that Wish would be the winner here. More likely, if it's a family film, it's going to be Trolls. And recently, even Grace Randolph had another incomprehensible mind maze of takes when it came to this film, which has a myriad of problems that she already highlighted in her own review. But ultimately, she still gives it a positive fresh rating? How? If the film has so many demonstrable flaws, how can you give it such effusive support? Well, chill. Sorry. Now, conversely, there are other films out there, the last couple of weeks worth of films, including Lionsgate's The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That is quite a mouthful, and that is aiming for a second week of around 30 million domestically, which I think is also optimistic. So at least it'll continue earnings, but at what rate? It did open to a decent number at about 100.8 million, but it still was behind Trolls internationally. And then of course you have Ridley Scott's Napoleon that's new this week from Apple Studios, and Sony's distributing that. They're aiming for about $46 million in global numbers, with only a small percentage of that coming from the US, although 22 million is pretty close to half, and 24 million in international sounds very disappointing, and the French don't seem to like this movie very much. This, of course, is a genre of film, the war films, that have been very successful, and because Joaquin Phoenix is in it, maybe, just maybe, a 45-day theatrical window will actually bring Apple Studios to the forefront. Now let's roll on back to Trolls, band together, with an expected 5-day gross from this holiday weekend of $20 million. So that probably is a decent performance and follow-up to the previous weekend, and probably well in line with what's going on with the Hunger Games film, but I'm not sure why the folks think that Hunger Games will do better than Trolls, considering the family appeal on a holiday weekend. And again, Disney's no longer a family company, so that's pretty much your only option. So clearly, the road ahead, especially for Disney's film, Wish, it's going to be a little bumpy. And they're trying to get a significant rebound here, riding on this holiday event, right? Thanksgiving. But it's not getting a lot of love from the critics, and it certainly isn't from early audiences. You have established things in, well, Hunger Games, and of course, a war film in Napoleon out there, but I still think if you're looking at the overall winner, it's going to be Trolls. The undeterred optimism here is the thing that blows my mind. There's no reason for it. You have a lot of other material out there and a lot of other events that you could pay attention to over the course of the weekend. So the question is, does anybody care for anything that's coming out right now? And more importantly, will the No Men November continue its disappointing earnings at the box office? It's a good question. Let me know your thoughts below on what we're looking at for this holiday weekend box office. And on that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others. And until next time, see ya!